A very good morning to everyone here. As the topic says, we are here to talk about digital healthcare. I think what we have seen in the last 3 years is the spread of digitization at a scale which is unprecedented. And this gives and opens up a lot of opportunities for many sectors to ride the digitization wave and create more efficiency, better delivery, and a better reach across the nation. I remember if 10 years ago, 12 years ago, somebody would have said that you will be able to pay via your mobile phone to your vegetable vendor who comes on a push cart. One would have kind of said, he's joking. But today this is a reality. And that reality where adoption has gone to a level where a person who's not literate can use a mobile phone to do digital transactions and avail digital services is amazing. There are a few other changes that are taking place in the world of technology. And some of those are automatic translation. We are a nation where hundreds of languages are spoken. So when you talk about translation, and I was at a recent Google conference where they're talking about the very special case of Indian language space. And I'm talking about this because it's very important in a sector like healthcare, where you have to deal with people from all strata of the society, people who are literate, people who are illiterate, people who speak different dialects and different languages. In India, a typical person knows at least 2 languages, and quite a lot of people know at least 3 languages. And our use of words from languages in a sentence can be myriad. So it's not like, I'll always speak in English, in perfect English or perfect Hindi. I'll use words of English when I'm talking in Hindi, and I'll use words of Hindi when I'm talking in English. Google is creating its algos to understand these mixed use of languages and then create translations where, again, commonly used words from different languages are given in the output. Now, this is an amazing piece of technology because when you're talking about content and conversations, translation becomes very important. So let's say you create a centralized pool of experts who are servicing and providing healthcare consulting to people across the country. And you have a language barrier. So the expert knows only one language, the patient knows a different language. How do you make them converse? Technologies like this sitting on the top of whatever healthcare infrastructure we create will enable the last mile reach and communication. This is one piece where translation comes into play, but this is about written word. The second word is you now have technologies where text to speech and speech to text are becoming more and more human-like. So you can convert something which is in text into a voice format. That is easy because reading is very easy, right? But the other way around, where voice can become text, is equally important because there again all the dialects and the way you speak come into play. When you talk about Siri or you talk about Google Assistant, that's what they have been doing and learning and training on. So now imagine somebody is speaking, it is getting translated, it is getting converted into text, the text is getting translated into the language the other person understands, and that's again being converted into voice and being converted back, and the communication starts happening in between 2 people who have no clue of what the other person is saying otherwise. Now that's the piece of technology that will revolutionize the way service deliveries will happen. On top of that, you now have AI technology where somebody can create a persona of me and lip sync it to the voice that is now being generated by a machine. So I am speaking in English, the other person is seeing my video persona, and the lip sync is to the language in which he is listening to me and not the language that I am speaking. So it makes a surreal kind of an experience of the whole delivery. Because I think when you're talking about healthcare, it's also about comfort. It's about connecting to the person who's providing you that healthcare. So while, I know the context of this conference, you'll be talking about various direct impact technologies and how dissemination is going to happen. But these are other pieces of technology which will probably enable the adoption of digitization in healthcare at a very different scale than what we envisage it to be today. I think we've already seen how the CoWIN app came into play during the COVID times and the scale at which it enabled execution, delivery, tracking, of the vaccination program. We now have Nikshay and the e-Rakt Kosh, which are again trying to replicate that model at scale in different spheres of healthcare delivery. But I think the larger challenge would be how do you create the on-ground infrastructure, because the last mile delivery will have to happen through people and through infrastructure. So digitization is great, but digitization also needs people on the ground. I think that's something this conference needs to deliberate and think about how do we kind of ensure that. Yes, it will probably address the challenge where we realize that a lot of doctors don't want to go into rural areas and provide service. So they can now do it remotely. But certain services will need intervention. I don't think technology has reached the scale where you can do an operation sitting remotely without a trained personnel being on ground at the last mile. So I think that's one challenge which we will have to think through, and I don't think digital technology is ready to solve that problem, at least in the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe I'm wrong, it happens sooner, but that's my gut feel. I think the other issue that we have to look at is basically the concerns regarding privacy, etc., which keep coming up from time to time. And I always give this example. Imagine somebody living in the floodplains of any of the river basins of India. Now, every year, their juggies will get washed away and they lose all record, all data, everything else. Today, the power of identity via Aadhaar, right, and connectivity through your thumb impression on your phone helps you retrieve and get your life back, whether it is access to your bank account, whether it's access to your healthcare records, education records, everything comes back. Sitting in Delhi in a pakka home protected from the impact of environment, it's very easy to talk about privacy. But think about the people where, all of these are something they don't even dream about and the struggles they go through. There the concern is privacy is least of their concerns. So I think somewhere we have to have a right balance between what privacy should be provided, how it should be provided. It's a legitimate concern. But I think for a large mass of people here in this country, it's probably the last thing on their mind, and there are more important things that they need to get addressed first. The other trend that I see is the adoption of mobile health apps, wearables, with 5G and connected devices. I think that's again going to revolutionize a lot of data collection parts. So a lot more data will be available seamlessly for the medical fraternity to look at and attend. Another interesting technology that is coming about, the ChatGPT. I don't know whether you guys have had a chance to look at it, but coming from a media industry, it has massive ramifications, at least in the media space. One of my colleagues was just telling me, and so normally this is not my area of specialty, so I requested some of my editors to write me some notes. And he said, because of miscommunication, he didn't know that I had already received one. So he got a message in the morning and he used ChatGPT to write my speech. And he says, I was surprised, and this is my editor telling me, I was surprised at the quality of what they wrote, because it was better than what he thought he could have done it himself, and in a minute. So that's what technology is doing today. And while I was preparing for this note yesterday, I was also looking that ChatGPT already has found some applications, and there are talks about it being used in identifying the causes of Alzheimer's. So I think these are very early signs, but I think this kind of a generative AI has a lot of capabilities which we'll get to know in the healthcare field, and it's going to be very interesting to watch. Of course, it will also throw up a lot of ethical, moral issues that will come into play with any use of technology. So I think some of our sessions are going to touch upon those. And with that, I'll probably step away and let the people who understand the space better continue with the sessions. I would like to thank our sponsors, Adobe and Mfine, for supporting us. And once again, welcome to all of you. I hope you have a very interesting and invigorating session, and it's a learning experience for all of you. Thank you.